All right, guys. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Results Loading Podcast hosted by Prosperous AI. I'm your host, Michael Atkin, and today I'm very excited to have Asmara Agha, a seasoned strategic sourcing supply chain executive with over 20 years of experience. Asmara has worked with Fortune 500 companies like Medtronic and Thermo Fisher Scientific. She now leads strategic sourcing at Nitto Denko Avecia. And we're really excited to hear her story today. So with that being said, Asmara, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. Really looking forward to this one. And Asmara, I want to jump right in here. You've had an illustrious career, like I just mentioned in the intro there. You worked at several Fortune 500 companies. You've really climbed the ladder of your professional career. Take us back to the beginning a little bit and explain to us how we got here. Where did we come from? Where did we start? And how did we get to where we are now, if you will?
Thank you. Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Pakistan, in Karachi. I studied textile engineering. I got married during my last year of engineering, basically. And my husband was US citizen, so I have to move here with him. So within a year time right after my undergrad, I moved to US. And again, I was very young at that time, but I was very passionate about and very curious about things. So again, immigrant like me coming from a different country, definitely there was a challenge for me to start a new life here. But I'm very proud of the people. I'm surrounded by beautiful people, I must say that. My in-laws, my husband, my immediate family, they were all very supportive. And went back to school. I did my MBA in global business. And my first job was with Bryant University in Rhode Island. I started teaching at Bryant. And when you teach, you learn. That's how
Of
I
course.
I see myself. And I also wanted to go a little bit back. My teachers, my mentors at Textile Institute of Pakistan, they were great people. They trained me well. They enable me basically to do whatever you can. So one thing that I have, I have very strong belief in, there's nothing impossible. So sky is the limit. That's what I always believe and I preach. And that's what I did. So I started teaching at Bryant, and during teaching, I did got some consulting opportunities because I was working with top companies. Uh, I, 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 I did some consulting work in between with top companies as well. I took a little break because my daughter was very young. After that, I stayed home. Stayed some time with her at home. But during the time, I got some grants from Bryant University on Lean Six Sigma. So I pursue my training on that. I completed green belt, black belt. I did some projects, and I came back to the industry as a consultant and this is the time of year, which was like around 2010, 2011. So very few people used to do these type of certifications. So I went back, I worked for Cooley Group a little bit. Then I went on to automotive sector for Sansara. And from Sansara, I have a very diverse background. So I went to automotive. Then I went to Medtronic. And at Medtronic, I was part of the contract manufacturing team. I was working with global commodity teams all over the globe, like in Penang, in China, in Germany. It was an interesting group, and I've learned so much. And I started getting myself engaged with understanding of the value of systems, the standardization, the tools, transformation. I was part of the SAP implementation team also at Medtronic. So I've learned so much and worked with global people, understand their perspectives, how dynamic they are in problem solving and resolving. So it was an interesting journey. And from Medtronic, I went to Thermo Fisher Scientific. I started at Thermo as a site sourcing leader, but I went into division. And the time I left Thermo, I was part of the corporate team. And over there also, I was managing 11 global sites, I had a team in Adelaide, Australia, in Germany, in China, in India, several teams in US. So it was an interesting journey, learned so much. And from there, I came to Nitto Avecia. So now I'm leading, strategic sourcing team at Nitto Avecia, and I'm very proud of the accomplishments I've already achieved here. I'm a high achiever. I've built my team from scratch here as well. I brought in the right talent from GE, Medtronic, Thermo, from all over. So I have a team comprised of seasoned sourcing people, and every day my team strives for the best. And so far, I think this is pretty much it in a nutshell about me. And
So
now I'll give you the opportunity to ask more. Go ahead.
no, that was fantastic. And I, tell me a little bit more about that team you started from scratch. Oftentimes, you come into a new role in a managerial or a director position or a
Mhm.
decision making position, and you inherit a team. And a lot of times, what makes a team successful are obviously the people. So,
Mhm.
talk to me about your process of literally building that team from scratch, and why you've the process of bringing them in from internally outside of Nito, and why you think they've been, the high achievers that it seems like you would require to work with you and underneath you.
Well, it's a great question. Basically, the time when I joined Avisha, it was a COVID time. And you can imagine, we are in vaccine business. We are doing APIs. So Nito has grown fivefold within few years of time. So you can imagine unplanned growth, right?
Sure.
And when you have an unplanned growth, then there are a lot of gray areas, there are a lot of opportunities. So when I came to Avisha, I did my gap analysis. I put together 30, 90-day plan, right? I
Yes.
was very clear on my goals. And the first thing I did, I proposed the restructuring. I did the spend deep dive. I understand the data. I know what is it needed because basis of the data, right? So I developed advanced spend analytics here, and that's how I was able to convey the leadership team that we need restructuring now to get to the next level. And I'm very honored, and I must say I'm very lucky that they understood my point and they support me. I must say there are a few leaders in the company who were highly supportive at that time, and they made it happen. My boss at that time, he was very supportive, and everybody aligned with me, and that's how I was able to build that great team. And my team has done wonders after that. We have started from scratch. They pick up the ball. We put together processes. We implemented policies. We've also worked very closely with global procurement and Nitto Denko corporate in Japan. So that's how we are rolling out, and still it's a continuous improvement. I don't think that continuous improvement is a journey. It's not a destination. So every day we work towards improving ourselves. That's how I do.
That's such a good point, that continuous improvement is a journey and not a destination, because a destination implies that the journey is completed or over. And we're always improving, no matter how senior you are, how smart or wise you are. It's really the right mentality to have, when it's like, no matter how seasoned of a professional
Hmm.
I am, I'm always learning still. There's always something more to learn. When I was at Microsoft, that was something that they preached a lot, not to be a
Hmm.
know-it-all, but
Yeah.
to be a learn-it-all. That's, I'm not even sure, they may have even trademarked that, but to be a learn-it-all. And it's absorb as much knowledge and information as possible. And you never know, you may even learn something from an intern sometime, and that's okay. And that's really the beauty of constantly learning. And like you
Mhm.
said, it's a journey. There's no destination involved. If you see it as a destination, you're limiting yourself, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So, Asmara, working with companies like Medtronic and Thermo Fisher Scientific, what were some of the main challenges you faced early in your career? You
Hmm.
didn't quite, you were early on your journey at
Yeah.
that time. Obviously, you had been teaching some, you were educated. How did you overcome some of those initial challenges and at the level, and what were they, if you're able to speak to them?
So to be honest, I have learned so much, and definitely, I wouldn't say there won't be any challenges. Yes, there were a lot of challenges, but one thing I figure out, you need to understand who you are working with, who is in front of you, right? And relationship building a trust, earning a trust, act ethically, be resilient. All these things help you to navigate around all the challenges. The challenges that I've faced, I have worked with people, not everybody, but there were some folks who lack empathy, right? Who had very little tolerance, who don't want to look at the bigger picture. But my job was there to create value, to show them, and I've learned this thing very early in my career. No matter what you do, if you do not have a logic, if you do not understand the data, then you are a failure. So I'm a big data person, right? From day one. I love to see the data. I love to understand the data. And that's why, I'm somebody who is very curious about new technological trends. And I'm very adaptive to this. I also published an article on artificial intelligence. Recently, it has been published on Journal of Chemistry, which talks more about the, inventory management and things. So this is just an example. So over there also, when I joined the companies, I went into Tableau, Jaeger, all these things. I did spend deep dives. I understand where is the value. I know, like, we've all heard about it, cost savings. It's a big thing. How are you going to adopt those cost savings? What are some of the saving levers? So, and because of this teaching mindset and forward thinking mindset, that helped me, navigating around all the challenges, because I can show it to my boss, like, this is a data, this is telling you the story. There's nothing, data never lies. So if they believe in you, if you show and you earn that trust, then only you can. And that's how I was able to achieve standardization in systems. I was able to rectify or streamline processes. I'm also a Lean Six Sigma black belt. So I always have this DMAIC problem solving approach working. And, that helped, I'm adaptive. I'm intuitive. I'm also empathetic. And again, building bridges is something I'm very good at. That's all helped me. So all these challenges that I've faced, I was able to overcome them because of that approach of, like, help me help you. That's how I was able to do that.
Well, then with that being said, can you tie mentorship into that help me help you situation as well? Obviously, I'm sure since, a young age, being an educator, then climbing the ranks through Fortune 500 companies, mentorship probably played a huge role in your career development, not just as you being a mentor to others, as you are now, but mentors that you looked up to that helped develop your skill set and your understanding of the business world as we know it today.
Oh, that's very true. I'm very lucky to have great mentors in my life. And especially when I was at Medtronic, I was able to work very closely with the top leadership over there. I got the opportunity to work with Umar Ashraq as well on one of the American Physicians Project, where they were doing a lot of philanthropy. I was chair of the cultural diversity group as well, one of the ERG that was newly found. And, in Fortune 500 companies, that's something I really like about. They're very strong about ERG networks. And these ERG networks are very supportive of employees, right? They have all different type of, like, the women network was also very strong over there. We have side meetings and we learn from each other. We do great initiatives. There were workshops over there. I remember they conducted one of the workshops on LinkedIn where you need to brand yourself. That's the first time I've learned about it. And it's way ago. Now it's very common. Everybody talks about it. When I heard about, like, 10 years ago, maybe, it wasn't there. Nobody can talk about it, but they were talking about it at that time. So that was a great learning curve. And this all happened because of that strong ERG and mentors that we have who directed me towards that. And my recommendation to people also, like, have a strong mentorship. You need to learn from others, but you need to, when you are at certain level where you can guide, you need to become mentor too. And even the relationships that I have today with my mentees, it's more like I also learn from them. They're young people. They are very curious about things. They know more than sometimes I feel they know more than me what's going on in the technology, and I learn from them. So this should be that should continue. Yeah, this is very
So,
important.
and say you had mentees at, say, Medtronic or Thermo Fisher back in the day. Are they relationships that you maintain today still, or are you more focused on your team at Nitto? How does that work? Because it seems like you really take this mentor mentee approach very seriously. It's really, really developed a lot of who you are today as a professional.
Mhm.
And obviously has helped you climb the ladder and become the individual that you are today. Um, are you maintaining all of those, or what does that look like for you? Are you more focused on the task at hand, or are you just kind of come to me if you need something, even if we haven't worked together in 10 years?
To be honest, I'll be realistic. Yes, I would love to spend more time with my mentors, but today the nature of my job, my traveling and all, it's not allowing me. But I still have that very strong bond with my mentor. I know I am just one call away. They are just one call away. And we still maintain, yes, we wish each other. We, whenever they saw me on LinkedIn, any new post, they always message me. They're very proud of the accomplishments that I have. And so that's how I wouldn't say I have discontinued. No, I still have that relation. But yes, timing is an issue now. We don't talk that often that we used to, but I'm very proud of the relationship that I've built with them. And it's not just US. My mentors are all over the globe, because I was working with global teams over there. So they are in Joburg, they are in Ireland, they are in Italy, they are in US as well, so they're all over.
Well, I know, and I know you got a bunch of travel coming up. So,
Yeah.
you have friends and mentees, mentors all over the world, which is fantastic. So, Asmara, switching gears a little bit into, transition and growth. You've led sourcing and supply chain initiatives at obviously some top Fortune 500 companies. For you, what was the biggest turning point in your career that helped shape your leadership style, and when you really started to think, hey, I'm pretty good at this?
Well, I have to deal with some really challenging and difficult people, and this is true, everybody has to, it's not just me. And there was a point when I have to decide, either I can fire a person or I can work with a person. Let's
Yeah.
see if he can improve on. And I'm that type of a person who always believe in second chances. So I'm very tolerant, but when it comes to work, I need it. I meet deadlines, and I that's what I like my teams to do. I wanted to stay on top of everything, and that's how I'm trained, and that's how I've trained my teams as well. But sometimes there are people who don't want to come out of their comfort zone. There are people who have very rigid mindset, who do not want to look at the bigger picture or no forward thinking. But I'm very proud of things that I was dealing with one person in past who was very rigid at times. But as I said before, if you because there are, we have to have certain targets, cost savings targets and things. And I have seen in past there were people who want us to, give me the cost savings, they need to squeeze blood out of stone, that type of mentality. I have learned from them. I will never repeat these things. That's what I have learned when I'll build my teams. So my relations with my direct reports or my team is very much like, a friendly relationship where I use empathy a lot. I openly have discussions with them. I want them to challenge me. I'm not somebody who, like, oh no, just do my way or highway. I hate that approach. I have an open door policy. So as I was referring before, there was this one person who was very rigid and who was kind of heartbroken also at times, because he has dealt with some, I don't know, maybe bad bosses in the past, and I'm a new boss, and he was also imagining me the same way. And there were challenges, and he was kind of very demotivated when I joined the team. But when I show him, I believe it's my style that motivates him. When I show him some empathy, I show him some, I would say data driven logical discussions, strategy sessions that we had, and cost savings and different approaches, thinking outside the box. I was able to motivate him, not just motivate him. he was kind of become a most efficient person of my team. There was a time when I was being recommended to fire that person. Now he become the most efficient. And I believe most people leave their jobs not because they don't like the work, it's because of their bosses. If the
Always.
boss understands and they know the strengths and weaknesses, then only they can manage them right. As a manager, I always feel
Mm,
like, I need to understand why this person is not giving 100%. There is something wrong where I can help that person. So that type of approach always helps, and that's what I have learned. And I'm very proud of that, because I don't want to fire people. I wanted to understand how things can be corrected, how can we streamline, how can we work together to take this organization to the next level. And that approach really helped me.
absolutely. No, and I couldn't agree more. And that's something that I've experienced myself too. My first job, my first manager treated my team with such dignity and respect. I was very green. I was coming out of the
Mhm.
intern program, for example, and I really didn't know as much as I probably should have. And this was an internal hire. No one, I was having a rough time getting a job at the company I was interning at. It was time for me to go full time. I graduated school. My manager hired me, and he told me, look, I'm never going to micromanage you. I'm never going to speak
Mhm.
down to you in a condescending way or anything like that. Just don't let me hear about you in a negative way. Get your work done and I'll stay out of your hair. And that was the approach towards the entire team. It's like, if you need to work from home, fine. If you need to leave early for a doctor's appointment, fine, no problem. Like, we're all human beings here. We had the highest performing team in the entire United States.
Wow.
Just because, to your point, he showed some empathy, some compassion, and gave everybody an opportunity to really be themselves in terms of optimizing and utilizing their skill set while being in a low work stress environment. Because you're right, people don't quit jobs because of the
Mhm.
job itself. It's typically because of the manager.
Exactly.
And if you surround yourself with people who you genuinely enjoy working with, it makes life 95% better. And then it's like, hey, we can do a little work now because this environment is okay.
Hmm.
And we show each other compassion, respect. We're utilizing the data, like you said, we're getting our job done. And oh, by the way, we're all hitting our numbers, we're performing out the roof, and we're killing it. And our manager really set that tone for us. And it's something I won't ever forget. And I'm glad that you brought this up because it's important. And then I would talk to somebody else in a different part of the company on a different team. We're doing the same job and they hate it. And it's like our jobs aren't, it's not that bad, but it's because you had a bad manager. And that creates a bad environment. You don't want to show up every day and you're limited in your capacity because it creates additional stress that you don't need.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, what about Lean Six Sigma? You had a gigantic experience with that. How did that experience and process optimization influence your approach to strategic sourcing and supply chain management and kind of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis now?
Well, first of all, the industry where I am right now, it's a pharmaceutical industry. I was always been part of, aside from automotive, Medtronic, Med Device, saving life, Thermo Fisher, same. Here, I'm still in the life science sector. So one thing that keep me going, that motivates me a lot, is the industry where I am right now, and this belief, like the work I'm attached with, is saving lives. I'm restoring health. And Lean Six Sigma, if you look at it, it's a DMAIC approach: define, measure, uh, you know, uh, approach, define, measure, control. Um, and then you need to understand, how are you resolving the issues. We have these great methodologies that we or mechanisms, like we have like the fishbone diagrams and things, which helps you understand the bigger picture. And it applies not just in my industry, in supply chain, in different sectors where there is a conflict, where there is a gray area, where there is anything that needs optimization. This DMAIC toolkit always helps, right? That mindset of resolving issues always help. That control phase, that measure phase, always show you the bigger picture. So I even though I'm not now technically engaged with that OPEX activity, but always behind the scenes in my mind, when I'm resolving anything, I'm thinking about these phases. I'm thinking about that problem solving approaches that I've learned, the FEMA approach and all these. And I worked very closely with OPEX here as well, to understand how can we resolve issues, how can we resolve the problems. The bigger problems during my Medtronic time, I was part of OPEX supply chain team. So there were a lot of warehouse issues. There were a lot of problem solving that I've done. And I've learned so much during that era. And then when COVID came in, it was most challenging time. I was also my team was also part of NPD sourcing team during Thermo Fisher. And there was a task that we were engaged, like there was a product that we have to develop uh, for COVID. I'm not going to take the names and things, but there was a product who was able to detect the COVID from the environment. And you see, there was a timeline crunches, there was stage gate that we have to go through. And by using DMIAC approach, I was able to be successfully execute upon it, and we have delivered the product on time. So that's one of the great accomplishments through that problem solving thing. This is just one example. But also, we have dealt with longer lead times, the logistic issues, inventory, running out of, and then after that, there were another challenges. We were overstocked, right? So all these things, they're part of it, but definitely Lean Six Sigma methodologies always help in resolving issues. Yeah.
And for those who aren't aware, can you just briefly break down what Lean Six Sigma is and what it does?
So Lean Six Sigma is a methodology with a complete toolkit where you define the problem. There's a phase where you define the problem. Then you measure. There are things that you set something to measure. And then you define, measure. Then there is a phase where you see the improvements. You see where you monitor the improvements. Analyze. You also analyze. In fact, before measuring, you need to analyze the problem, and then measure. And then again, there is a phase where you set controls. Once you measure, you set controls for the problem, and you understand whether things are working out or not working out. And there are tools, great tools like fishbone diagrams that you use to resolve conflicts. There are FEMA approach. There are a lot of different methodologies today people use to resolve that. So this is basically a complete toolkit. And there are different levels of it. There's a green belt, most people do. There is a black belt, and then there is a master black belt. And there are multi-million-dollar projects that people do around it. They're OPEX specialists who just work around these methodologies. But they are applicable in almost all industries, not just, supply chain. It is applicable everywhere.
Sure. There's obviously an umbrella that's applicable to everything. And you're a black belt, correct, is my understanding?
I am.
And congrats on that. How long did it take you to attain that certification? Or
actually, to be honest, I didn't do it in one go because I was doing different things. And as I told you, I did that during my time when I was not working. So basically, I did grants from Bryant University, but then I started working for Cooley. I would say it took me a year time, although it can be done in 6 months or so. There was a project I was engaged to complete that. So project took longer. So that's why, it took long. Yeah.
Got it. Understood. That's fantastic. Like you said, applicable everywhere, but specifically applicable to what you're doing. And I'm glad you've been able to lean on it for certain issues and situations that you've been dealt in the past in your real world dealing. So perfect success story there, right? Mm-hmm. And switching gears again, Asmara, a lot of the industries you've worked in are obviously highly regulated, life sciences, medical device, etc. How have you navigated the complexities of regulatory compliance while driving efficiency in sourcing and supply chain management throughout your career?
It's a very good question because that's true. It's a highly regulated industry. So we have this vendor assurance committee where all the different functions like process technology team, there is a advanced analytics team, there is QC team, there is quality, different quality functions and strategic sourcing. They all work together, right, to get the supplier qualified. There's a spec setting phase. It's highly regulated, but there is a piece which we have very less control, because we deal with top pharmaceutical companies. So our client buying piece is very important for us. We work with our client from the start, but they have to do their regulatory filings also, right, on the basis of the test results and things. And that's the piece we have less control over. We can only share what we have done, but now we rely on them to complete their regulatory filing. So there are set timings. There is no, I would say, there are timings for us to achieve our milestones internally, where we know, like, we are doing all the right things, spec setting, testing methods, discussion, technical discussions, all that. But there is a piece which lies with the client, which we have no control over. So that's the tricky piece. But I and my team totally understand it, and we know how it is. But we need all we need to do, we need to understand how can we stay ahead of game. How can we start from the start? We can engage our client so that it saves time. Because a lot of lessons I've learned, I've seen qualifications, they were uh, still waiting for not just the client piece, but there were hurdles, internal hurdles as well. Like it took 3 years time, 4 years time, which is not an efficient way. But this is a highly regulated industry. We cannot move forward without completing one step. So it's a very tedious, stringent qualifications that I'm talking about, especially in the pharmaceutical world. So
Absolutely. And what about ethics and sourcing? I mean, you've worked on implementing sustainability and ethical sourcing practices. Like, why is this so important for today's global supply chains, especially in like life sciences and some of the industries that you've worked in?
it's more than important. Than I think I would say this is the most important thing today. I work
Okay.
for I work for a company which is a Japanese company, and they very strongly emphasizes on, we have internal audits all the time. We have JSOX, NIMS, KPMG audits, all these audits and time to time, and we have this whole, I would say, procurement policies and procedures that we implement, we execute upon. My team constantly do due diligence with all other departments, with cross-functional teams. And my company CEO Takasaki-san has said we wanted to become the most reliable ESG company. Today,
Yeah.
ethics, governance is very, very important to us as a Japanese American company. So we are all working towards it. Like me, I am, as a strategic sourcing person, I conduct supplier business reviews with all my key strategic suppliers, and during our discussions, we have started these discussions around how can we work together in carbon footprint reduction. How can we support each other? What can we do? And I'm always eager for some cost savings ideas through ESG. Why not? I can give you one example. I know Nitto have great programs. I have recently visited their Onomichi plant in Japan. It's a beautiful plant near Hiroshima. And I was told there is this, how engaging they are. It's a very heart touching and a very good example that I've seen. They have this community of people who have neuromodular disorders, and then there is
Mm,
an elderly community. So there are certain number of people, I don't know the exact number, but there is around 400 or something like that. They work together and assembling one product. So the
interesting.
neuromodular disorders and the elderly, and they say that elderly people have more patience, so they can work with those people who are mentally challenged or neuromodular disorders. So
Wow.
they work together to assemble a simple product. It's not a very complicated, but a simple product. And that's how they're utilizing people. They're making them valuable for the
Well,
society.
and giving
And
them opportunity to
exactly.
participate in society as well, which is Fantastic. You don't hear that much about that in the United States, right? I mean, not as prevalent as a whole factory worth.
Yeah. So that's why
The
now
plant.
I believe we can become number one ESG company in the world by doing such activities, right? So these are the things that I'm very proud of, that I'm associated with that type of company today. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a shame because ESG, especially now in the last several years, has become more of a hot topic, especially in
Mhm.
corporations. In the past 50 to 100 years has been something that's less important, of course. And now environmental social governance is becoming
Mhm.
much more discussed, much more important to corporations. Um, and those are the stories that are really great to hear because a lot of times, if your ESG standards aren't up to par, for example, maybe you pay a few $1 million in fines or what have you, or you set up a plant here outside of Hiroshima, like you were just describing,
Mhm.
and we have this wonderful community of people not doing a terribly difficult or complex job, but like you said, giving them an opportunity to participate in society and be productive members of society,
Mhm.
not only giving them purpose, but also giving them some element of livelihood, which I
Exactly.
unfortunately, and you know more about this than me, I
Mhm.
wish we heard more stories like that. I don't know if they're out there and we just don't hear about them. But I wish that this was a more prominent thing that we were hearing about that was more in the mainstream, especially at the corporate level, such as Nitto,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So, Asmar, I know you're really involved in D&E, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You're a strong proponent of all the above. How are you integrating these values into your leadership and team building strategies? And how have you done it in the past?
It's a great question. Yes, that's very true. This is a topic which is very close to my heart. And I've
Yes.
been trained on that from my Medtronic days. Like, I was part of the Women Network group. I have great mentors around it. Recently, I've conducted a panel discussion in Europe, in Vienna, on equity and inclusion. And there were participants were the top people top scientists, actually, from the world. And we talk about, the challenges even today the women face. Equal pay is still a challenge for a woman. And I always try, as a leader, I always support, uh, you know I want equality for all. I'm not saying, oh, give women more or less man. I'm saying let's have equal. They I don't How do you say, like, oh, man is more intelligent than woman, which is not true, right? So you need to
Typically
have.
the opposite.
I don't want to say that, otherwise all the men will hate me.
No, but
But
I can say it.
that's right. So again, I strongly believe, like, equality, equity, this is something very important. Belongingness is important. So we need to be mindful of all these things, and we need to recognize these things. It's high time now, like, even in today's 20 we are in 2024, we are still fighting for these things. This should happen. But I know there are great companies who have these policies. Even Nitto has this policy to promote more women leaders up in the ladder. Medtronic had it. Thermo Fisher had it either, is the same one. And I think all the great good companies, they are adopting it, and they wanted to promote more women in the workplace. They see the need of it. So this is needed. And outside of that also, we need to be, we are one world citizens. We need to be peaceful. We need to have tolerance. We need to have, need to respect each other's beliefs and customs. Diversity is always important. Diversity brings innovation. Diversity makes you think outside the box. Diverse. I have worked with Germans, I've worked with Japanese, I've worked with Chinese, I've worked with Indians. I'm very proud of, and I feel like I get, like, they when I work with teams who are together, belonging from different regions, but they have the same goal, they come across as a very strong team. So we are one world citizens today. It's all global world today. So diversity, equity, inclusion plays a vital role in bringing people together and bringing harmony and making us a global citizens. So that's why it's important today than ever before.
Of course. No, it's just like ESG. I mean, they really go hand in hand, right? And it makes no sense for two individuals, a man and a woman, who are doing the exact same thing to have
Mm-hmm.
a pay disparity, for example. It's
Yeah.
if one is seriously more talented than the other, then they probably shouldn't have the same job, of course.
Yeah.
But if you have two, oh, go ahead.
No, I wanted to mention, I'm very proud of, like, my company Nitto Avecia has a women president, the first female women American president who became president of the Japanese company. Her name is Tammy Cooper, and I report to Tammy Cooper, my boss, my immediate boss, and I'm very proud of her because she herself has proven successful track record. She is somebody who not only, she shows by her action how proponent she is of all the good activities, all the ethical good functions. And I'm very optimistic under Tammy's leadership, Nitto Avisha will go to the next level. And I wanted to bring it because I'm very strong proponent of women leadership. And today, the era where I'm living, I'm enjoying my time. This is the most efficient, I would say, most enjoyable time for me for working under straight in a women leader. So I just
That's
wanted to bring that up. It's important to
fantastic.
me.
No, yeah, no, I don't blame you at all, and I'm thrilled to hear that this has been some of the most positive times in terms of DE&I during your illustrious career. And with that said, Asmar, as we wrap up here,
Mhm.
as you reflect on your career, and it's been an illustrious one, as you and I both know, what achievements are you most proud of across everything? You started as a professor, climbed
Mhm.
the ladder through several Fortune 500 companies. You've obviously accomplished plenty now in the office with the people around you, and you're not done yet. What are you most proud of thus far, though?
Well, I think the proudest moment still little ahead, but there are a lot of accomplishments for me. But me coming from Pakistan, working here as an immigrant, climbing up the ladder. Now I'm head of strategic sourcing in a company, and again, I for me, philanthropy is something which is I'm very proud of, and I would like to support the underprivileged. My daughter, I would say, my daughter Amna Agha, who is a junior in college, she's one of the most proudest, I would say, I am right now. And she will be starting very soon. She just shared with me an idea that a scholarship program for students in Pakistan with one of the institute, and that scholarship will be under my parents' name. So basically, giving
Fantastic.
back to the community and supporting somebody. And then she also want me to have a mentorship program, include people like me and other successful people from the industry to mentor those students who are underprivileged so they can become more successful and they are ready to face the challenges. So that's something I'm very proud of. That's why I said I'm very proud of my daughter, and that proud moment still to come to see that. And then I must say I have great support from the people around. I'm surrounded by great people, and my teachers, my mentors, my parents, so most important, my husband, all of them, they supported me, and that's why I'm so successful. So I'm proud of all the people around me. Thank you for your support. And my friends also, I don't want to forget my friends, my school friends, my university friends. I can't take everybody's names, but they're all great mentors for me. I've learned from them so much and still connected. Thank you all for your great support.
Can't ever forget the friends, that's for sure. Love family, but we love our friends as well, and they both have gigantic impact on who we are and who we become. So I couldn't agree with you more. And Asmar, thank you so much for the time today. Congrats on all the success, everything we discussed. Really insightful, really enjoyable conversation. I really appreciate you joining us today on the Results Loading podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you for inviting me.
Take care and good luck to you.
Thanks. Bye bye.